We now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Will Keneally. We're here at the Chula Vista Resort in the Wisconsin Dells, which is hosting the annual State Democratic Party convention. Now, in just a few hours, delegates to the convention here will vote on who they want to be the next state party chair. Now, that will replace outgoing party chair Ben Wickler and will lead the State Democratic Party to the crucial 2026 midterm elections. Now, we'll get to all of that in just a few moments here. But we start this week out of Minnesota and the political violence. As we're recording this right now, we know of at least 2 state lawmakers who were shot, one fatally, by a suspected 57-year-old gunman. Now, the shooting is believed to be politically motivated, and the suspected shooter reportedly posed as a police officer during that shooting.
This was an act of targeted political violence. Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy. We don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. At this precipice moment we're on, this tragic act here in Minnesota should serve as a reminder to all of us. The democracy and the debates in the halls of Congress, in state houses, in school boards, is a way to settle our differences peacefully and move society to a better place.
And as we're recording this, Minnesota police are still searching for that suspect. That shooting caused Democrats here to take extra steps to ensure the security of those attending the state convention. Now, a source familiar with the planning of the convention tells us that the Democratic Party of Wisconsin already had a robust security plan in place and is taking additional cautionary measures in light of the horrific events that unfolded in Minnesota. Now, lawmakers also addressed that violence during convention programming.
In America and here in Wisconsin, we should and we must resolve political differences with conversation and debate, not at the point of a gun and not with violence. Thank you. So all of us in the Wisconsin legislature will do what we can to help Minnesota, to help them heal, and to prevent this from ever happening again, and to continue to seek a safe and respectful world.
Because of that shooting, Minnesota authorities asked members of the public to not join thousands of protests happening across the country challenging the Trump administration. This comes after recent protests in Los Angeles, some of which turned violent over the federal administration's immigration policies. President Trump had dispatched members of the National Guard and some active duty Marines to the city as part of the government's response. And in the wake of this, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets in Madison to protest the administration.
We're talking about truth and lies, and this administration is largely staffed by liars.
I personally believe as a man I have a lot of power in this society, and especially because most people are being silenced, such as women, LGBTQ, and black people, other races.
That action by the Trump administration has caused some concern among local advocates as well. Senator Espano, for example, helps provide resources to immigrant workers and families. And the group's executive director spoke Friday about some of the fear she is seeing in that community.
And I think what happened this week for me personally was the straw that made me think we need to be more forceful about coming out and speaking out and saying what we're feeling. Not because we owe anything to anybody, not because we need to prove what we're doing here and the strategies and all of that, but because we need to process this together, and we need to process this with you, with our community.
Those protests Saturday happened against the backdrop of a massive military parade hosted by President Trump. The event coincides with the 250th anniversary of the United States Army and also falls on the president's 79th birthday. And back in Wisconsin, the Milwaukee judge arrested for allegedly helping a man evade ICE detention has a new court filing. Judge Hannah Dugan's lawyers argued that she's improperly being prosecuted for official actions that she undertook while working as a judge. They argued that the actions Judge Dugan took in April are protected under judicial immunity. Dugan was charged in May with obstructing ICE agents' actions. And a liberal law firm here in Wisconsin is suing Elon Musk over his involvement in this past April's state Supreme Court election. The lawsuit alleges Musk broke Wisconsin's election bribery law by offering $100 to Wisconsin voters who signed a petition. The lawsuit argues that that petition urged voters to support the same talking points as the conservative candidate in that race. Musk also offered Wisconsin voters the opportunity to enter into a $1 million drawing ahead of that April election. That suit is currently working its way through Dane County Court. Now, in the state Supreme Court, retiring Justice Ann Walsh Bradley was recognized this week for her 3 decades of service on the High Court. During remarks in the Capitol Rotunda, the Richland Center native joked about bringing her southwestern Wisconsin roots to the Capitol.
I say today to all of you gathered here, it has indeed been a long journey from the old Swamp Inn to serving as Chief Justice of the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Justice Ann Walsh Bradley also spoke about the state of the judiciary and the current political climate.
Efforts to intimidate judges for rendering unpopular decisions undermines the very foundation of our system that our founding fathers designed. Federal judges are not monsters. They are not communists, as some proclaim. Rather, they are fulfilling the judicial branch, the role of the judicial branch, by providing checks and balance on the balance of power.
Bradley will be replaced by fellow liberal Justice Susan Crawford on August 1st. Now, security for the High Court made a splash this week as Republicans on the legislature's powerful budget writing committee rejected a proposal to create a new law enforcement agency to expand the court's marshal service. Right now, justices are protected by Capitol Police, who are housed in the executive branch, the Department of Administration. The proposal would have created a separate law enforcement agency housed in the judiciary. GOP lawmakers said the new agency was not needed. And this comes amid a busy week in the state capitol as lawmakers return to their work on the state budget. Republicans introduced a new tax cut that would increase the state's second lowest tax bracket. That means single filers in Wisconsin who make between roughly $28,000 and $50,000 per year would see their state income taxes go down by around 1%. That would also impact married couples earning between $38,000 and $67,000. The tax plan would also allow retirees to deduct the first $24,000 of their retirement income from their state taxes. The plan is expected to cost around $1.3 billion. And at the same time, lawmakers also approved close to $400 million of funding for K-12 education. That included funding special education in Wisconsin schools at a rate of 35% this fall and 37.5% the following year. This is federally mandated spending that school districts have to take on, and the figure from the state legislature comes in short of what the governor had asked for. He wanted to fund special education at a rate of 60%. And that led to Saturday, where about 100 public school advocates rallied outside the governor's mansion to urge him to stand firm on his budget proposal for funding special education. Advocates like the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association argue that anything less than the 60% would be insufficient to meet the needs of the state's public schools.
We're here today to ask Governor Evers to stand up for his budget, to fight for his budget, and not just Governor Evers, but every single legislator, because it's time for them to do right by the students in Wisconsin.
And that's all as we're continuing to provide you coverage on the ground here at the Wisconsin Dells at the State Democratic Party Convention. Now, earlier this week, we sat down with outgoing Democratic State Party Chair Ben Wickler about the future of the Democratic Party heading into 2026. What should people expect this year?
Well, this year's theme is the road to 2026. And the reason is that for the first time in a very long time, in Wisconsin, Democrats have a chance to win every statewide office, the majority in both the Assembly and the State Senate, and to flip congressional offices in a way that could contribute to a Democratic House majority nationwide. So this year is all about gearing up for a gigantic year next year.
Now, in just a moment, we'll share with you more from our conversation with Ben Wickler there, and later we'll share with you more from behind the scenes here at the Democratic State Party Convention in the Wisconsin Dells. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to For the Record. We're on location here in the Wisconsin Dells at the 2025 State Democratic Party Convention. Now, the Democratic Party here in Wisconsin is in a little bit of a transition period as current State Party Chair Ben Wickler is stepping down from that post. Now, in just a few hours, delegates here at the convention will vote for who they want to replace him as State Party Chair and who will lead Democrats into that crucial 2026 midterm election. Now, we spoke with Wickler ahead of the convention. Here's more from our conversation. Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So we see kind of behind you the theme of this convention. What should people expect this year?
Well, This year's theme is the road to 2026. And the reason is that for the first time in a very long time, in Wisconsin, Democrats have a chance to win every statewide office, the majority in both the Assembly and the state Senate, and to flip congressional offices in a way that could contribute to a Democratic House majority nationwide. So this year is all about gearing up for a gigantic year next year. And I should mention, expanding the pro-democracy majority on the state Supreme Court. There's a huge opportunity that awaits us in a moment of national crisis, and we're using this convention to get everyone on the same page and fired up for what's coming.
Yeah, so kind of where are Democrats right now? We saw a loss in that presidential election in November. Mixed bag because Tammy Baldwin kept her seat, but then a pretty, decent result in April. What's that kind of look like, taking that momentum or lack thereof from November, April to 2026?
After the heartbreaking loss last fall, here in Wisconsin, Democrats brushed themselves off. We dug into the data, we did as much listening as we could to figure out what had gone wrong, and then we jumped back into the fight. And the result, applying all the lessons of last fall, was a blowout victory for Susan Crawford this spring. So we can feel a blue wave that's starting to surge up in our state. People are infuriated by what the Trump administration is doing, the vote by Derek Van Orden and every other Republican member of the House to advance a bill that would rip health care away from so many Wisconsinites, to give a tax cut to people at the very top of our economy, and these policies that really are attacking democracy and decency itself. People do not want that. They want a country that works for everyone. And I think what we can see at the grassroots level and in elections like this spring's is the opportunity for Democrats to make historic gains in 2026 and then to really make the state better for everyone in 2027.
So you're in a unique position where you're stepping down and kind of handing off the torch to somebody who will be chosen at this convention. What's that kind of transition like? What would you hope to see in whoever, comes next?
My first core hope for our next state party chair is someone who's deeply committed to the vision of democracy itself, to organizing in every zip code, in rural areas and small towns and cities and suburbs, across race and ethnicity, to build a party where everyone who believes that the state should work for working people, not just for those at the top, has a home. We're a big tent party, and I want someone who can lead with that spirit, can build unity, and can really zero in on what helps Democrats win elections so they can make change in people's lives. I've made an endorsement in the race. I've endorsed Devin Remiker, who's my former executive director. I've seen firsthand how he sees around corners, figures out where we need to go, and then can bring people together to jump into the fight. The biggest, most recent example was that he came up with the game plan to go after Elon Musk in the state Supreme Court race. And when Susan Crawford on that victory stage talked about going up against the richest man in the world, Devin had played a critical role in galvanizing Democrats all over Wisconsin and across the country to jump into that fight. I think it's going to be fights like that that we'll need to win going forward.
Why make that decision to endorse in the race instead of just letting the party kind of come to that conclusion themselves?
Well, I'm one voter. All the delegates to our state party convention get to vote. But I also felt like it wouldn't be fair to the voting members of our state party convention if I didn't share what I'd seen. I have worked with Devin, often with me in front of the scenes and Devin behind the scenes. And I didn't want people to think that his work was something that I deserve credit for. He's done so much to drive us forward, and I thought it was best to equip the electorate with all the information that they needed to make the best decision.
Also fascinated, too, we've seen at the DNC, you're in the running, losing to Ken Martin, but a little bit of back and forth, saying, essentially, I don't want to paraphrase for him, but a little bit of regret, maybe, or difficulty leading the national party. Where would you be, where would your head be if you were in that position right now with him?
Well, leading a party at any level is a lot of work. You can ask any of our county chairs across the state. There's been all kinds of challenges here in Wisconsin, and the National Party is in, I think, a really challenging moment because at the same time there is this constant assault by Republicans and Democrats trying to figure out the way out of this mess, and this huge upsurging energy from below with the grassroots ready to fight back against the GOP. So I wish Chair Martin all the best, and I think the key thing is rallying people to fights where if they put in everything they've got, it can make the difference and cross the finish line. That's how we won in Wisconsin in the Supreme Court race here. We've seen that in special elections across the country. And for all the kind of internal conflict and drama that can happen within a party, what really matters is how they bring everyone together to fight and win for the values that make us Democrats, that are really, I think, the values that make us proud of this country.
Should Democrats in Wisconsin be concerned by any kind of tumult that's happening at the National Party? Does that spell danger?
No, I think that the key thing is figuring out where to put our energy. And in Wisconsin, we're one of the few states that runs a year-round organizing program. In every part of the state, in the bluest and the reddest areas and everything in between, we're going to spend this summer and this fall going out and talking to voters who maybe didn't support Democrats in the past to figure out what they care about right now and where they align with Democrats and the vision of a country where we fight for regular folks, not just the tiny handful of billionaires at the top, and where we try to make sure everyone's basic freedoms and dignity is respected by their government. I think both those things are under attack from the Trump administration, and a lot of folks, even who voted for Trump or didn't vote last year, right now are thinking maybe we don't want unchecked power in this guy's hands. So we can help translate that into votes against Derek Van Orden next year and for Democrats in the state legislature and our statewide offices.
Our conversation there with outgoing state party chair Ben Wickler. When we come back, we share some of the key speakers from this year's Democratic Party convention. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to For the Record, on location here in the Wisconsin Dells at the State Democratic Party Convention. Now, earlier in the show, we showed you sights and sounds from across the country and across Wisconsin of these No King protests challenging the Trump administration in D.C. Now, one of the local Democrats here in Wisconsin that has been a key figure for Democrats challenging that Trump administration has been Attorney General Josh Kaul.
So let me say, I could not be prouder to be fighting back against the Trump administration. One of the most powerful tools we have now to protect the rule of law, to stand up for our Constitution, to defend critical programs, is litigation. And my administration right now is involved in 19 different multi-state lawsuits against the Trump administration. And while those cases are still ongoing, some of them have had a clear impact.
Among the Democrats challenging the Trump administration in Washington is Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin. Now, she offered this as what Democrats are doing to provide a backstop against that administration.
In Congress, we have our oversight role. I don't know if any of you saw me questioning Pete Hegseth last week, or the director of the NIH, or Bobby Kennedy over his failure to provide CDC experts for our children in Milwaukee public schools who are facing challenges with lead poisoning. So oversight in the Senate, we can block bad legislation that requires us to, it requires them to overcome a filibuster. We can make sure they can't do that.
We also heard from Dane County Congressman Mark Pocan. Now, he's been holding town halls across his district and other districts in Wisconsin, hearing from voters, and he wants to take that energy ahead to the 2026 election.
And there's a whole lot more bad going on with this administration, from his inhumane ICE arrests and deportations to his firing of federal employees. He is trying to make America Mar-a-Gulago. And as elected official, I'm going to tell you, I feel what you feel. The anger, the sadness, the pissed offedness. I share all of those feelings every single day. So what do? Well, when we fight, we win. And we need to fight harder than we ever have had to fight before.
We also heard from Governor Tony Evers. Now, he is in an intense budget fight with legislative Republicans.
And if you laid out all the miles of roads we've repaired, you could drive from here in the Dells to Disney World and back 3 times. No joke, 3 times. And after securing one of the largest investments in affordable housing in state history in our last budget, we've helped support development of about 1,000 new housing units across our state, which means we built 17,000 affordable housing units since I took office. And I've used my veto pen to stop every Republican attack on LGBT kids, Wisconsinites, reproductive freedom, and our fair, safe, and secure elections.
Now, amid that budget fight between the governor and legislative Republicans, there are questions swirling about whether Governor Evers will run for a third term. Now, he talked around that during his convention speech.
Heck, everyone stopped calling me 2-term or 3-term Tony, and now they just call me 400-year Tony because I use my constitutional veto power to provide a $325 increase per student every year for the next 4 centuries.
When we come back, another busy week in the state capitol. We'll provide you all the updates right after this. Welcome back to For the Record. We're on the road this week in the Wisconsin Dells at the 2025 State Democratic Party Convention. Now, a quick preview of the week ahead. The legislature's powerful budget writing committee comes back in on Tuesday, handling the budget for the Department of Corrections, among some other state agencies. Also on Thursday is Juneteenth. Now, that's a national celebration for the end of slavery. And on Tuesday, lawmakers are expected to hold a celebration in the Capitol Rotunda. Now stay with us for News 3 Now at 5:30 as we recap today's events at the State Party Convention in the Dells here. And as a reminder, you can watch full episodes of the show online at channel3000.com under the For the Record tab. That does it for us this week. I'm Will Keneally. Have a great rest of your weekend.
This has been For the Record.